You're listening to Mid-Valley Radio. Around the Valley, today is July 24th, 2012, and we are coming from the beautiful end of the Santa Fe Trail in El Monte, California, Richard Cortez Studios. As always, we have an interesting show with a diverse group of people from around the San Gabriel Valley, and I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Lucia Flores, and I'm a Baldwin Park resident, and I'm also the host of Rock and Rolas here on Mid-Valley Radio.
Art Landing, webmaster for the Rosemead Kiwanis.org website and editor of their newsletter.
Don Rickabaugh, and I'm here representing the Temple City Time Exchange.
Kimberly, Cobian, representing the Nuvein Foundation for Literature and the Arts, the ZZyZx WriterZ, and creator and organizer of Poetryalozza.
All right, you guys, I'm excited about today's show. Before we get into it, though, let's talk a little San Gabriel Valley talk. There's some interesting things happening in the news. There's a story in the LA Times about El Monte and sugar tax. I don't know if you heard about that, but El Monte is trying to, financially plan, as they're saying, proposing a tax on soda. And they say we'll get $7 million. It's a bit controversial because, people aren't used to that idea. And the mayor's saying it's something like cigarettes. You're paying a tax for cigarettes because ultimately it's unhealthy for the community. And they're saying the same thing with sugars and, because of obesity and diabetes and all those things. Anyone have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think they're definitely trying to emulate what's going on with Mayor Bloomberg in New York. They are trying to do something similar back there. And this is a trend where the government is trying to regulate various types of conduct by using the financial system to do it. It's been done for years in other areas of our lives, automobile insurance, for instance. But in this case, it is being targeted at a particular group because they think the children are drinking too much soda pop and that other people get addicted to it, and they're going to somehow discourage the consumption by putting this tax on.
Yeah, I know New York.
Now, if you do that, you're going to end up eventually reducing the revenue, you would think, because there's going to be lower consumption of it.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, if you go back to cigarettes, and that is a little different maybe because cigarettes is addicting, then again, soda might be addicting. I feel like I'm addicted to Diet Coke. But you're right. New York did something similar where they're trying to regulate, serving size because, I actually didn't know until Bloomberg brought it up, but 7-Eleven Big Gulp is like 5 or 6 serving sizes. It's like 600, 700 calories. It's pretty crazy. I was reading an LA Times article, and you could just Google it and find it, or you can go to Mid Valley News Facebook and find it there where I posted it. I guess some other city in California had tried to do something and failed, and I think Hawaii tried to do something and failed. So we'll just keep an eye on it. It's kind of interesting. Anyone else have any San Gabriel Valley news? I have a few other stories. No, did you guys hear about the San Gabriel Valley Council of Government? Is that what it is? It's SGVCOG. You can Google that. The guy who was in charge of it, the group, if you don't know, is kind of like the city council for the San Gabriel Valley City Council. That's the idea, at least. And the president has been arrested, or not arrested. He's been accused of crimes by the FBI, and I think he's out on bail, and he's trying to get the council to pay for it. So it's an interesting thing to follow. What else is going on?
Well, I did see in the news that El Monte they're trying to get, I think it's either national recognition or something like that about being the end of the Santa Fe Trail. I heard about that.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. The Pasadena Star News just did a story, which is also in the San Gabriel Tribune and the Whittier Daily News, because it's the same company, where, El Monte for almost a century, maybe longer, has called itself the end of the Santa Fe Trail. And Santa Fe actually says, we're the end of the Santa Fe Trail.
Well, there is a story behind that which we summarized in the RKC Reporter a couple of months ago. There actually was a Santa Fe Trail which extended from Missouri to New Mexico. That was the original Santa Fe Trail. There was a Spanish trail that went from New Mexico here to California that was very, very little used. And after the Santa Fe Trail became operational, they rerouted it, and it effectively became an extension of the original Santa Fe Trail.
Right. I heard that was called the GILI River Trail or something. I don't know if it's Gila or Gila.
Gila River. I haven't used that particular term for it, but it was actually the Spanish Trail rerouted, and it began to be called the Santa Fe Trail as all these people from the south came into the San Gabriel Valley. Rosemead was called Savannah. El Monte was Lexington.
Yeah.
And all of this happened before the Civil War.
Right.
Civil War came along, and all of a sudden we have new names because we don't want to be associated with the Confederacy. We're supporting the Union.
Right. Yeah, and I think it ties into the whole the California being romanticized that happened at the turn of the century, and before that it was kind of this East Coast, West Coast conflict, the Southern kind of English conflict. And after that time, it became more popular to be associated with Southwestern culture and things like the Santa Fe Trail. But according to that article, which you can Google and find, or I'll post it on Mid-Valley News Facebook as well, it's, it's been called the end of the Santa Fe Trail since 1850. But, it's something that's interesting to check out if you've never done it. El Monte has a historical museum. They have two, actually, next to where their aquatic center is. Mm-hmm. One of them is a large building with a lot of different things, the pioneer days and whatnot. And another one is smaller called La Historia. It's really, really tiny, but they're kind of dedicated to the barrios of El Monte. And it's really interesting to see a lot of old, cool kind of Latino photos they have in there. So let's just get into our guests. Who would like to start off?
Well, I would like to know about this exchange in Temple City. It sounds very, very interesting that you are actually helping businesses and with individuals as well trade off services in a way that sort of gets them outside of this cash-strapped economy we have now.
Thanks a lot. I mean, I think most people can relate to having a little less cash in their pockets, or it's not going quite as far. And so the idea behind time exchanging, which Art, you had said before we started, is awful like bartering, but it's not quite bartering. But what we're doing is, how do we exchange services and get benefit from each other when we can't bring greenbacks out of our pockets and exchange them? How can we still get value and not depend 100% on the cash economy? So that's the relevance for now. I think a lot of people can relate to.
So answer the question.
What was the question?
How do we do it?
Oh, wait, what? I'm just here drinking my green tea. Yeah, well, here's the way. Let's say, as a homeowner, there's no end of things that I need done around the house. And so if it gets really expensive, if you're paying for everything, I got a broken window, I got some painting that needs to be done, things like that. And there's other people in the group who can give those things to me. So here's how it would work. I have Jim come over and help me with the broken window and teach me how to do glazing. That's kind of hard to do. How do you get the old stuff out, replace the window, and put the new stuff in? And so he spent probably 3 hours over at our house doing that. So he got 3 time dollars for giving us a service. So that goes into his account, so to speak. And we do have an online software that keeps track of this. So it's like we have our own little mini Federal Reserve.
That's great.
So then he gets 3 hours, but he might need something from Gary. He might need Gary to come help him fix something at his house, or he might need to de-junk his commercial building that he's selling, or getting a property ready for a rental. So then he can spend those 3 hours having Gary help him, and then Gary now has 3 hours, so now he can pay for someone to come and spend time with his wife, who is an invalid, basically.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. It sounds like it's useful, but it also sounds like something we're always trying to do here around the valley is just build community.
Oh, exactly.
It sounds, people become your friends, they become part of, your network, and nowadays you don't even know your neighbors, so it's nice to know people who live in your city.
Yeah, it's like providing some level of a safety net for people who are kind of falling through the system as we have the economic fallout of, decisions that are being made on really high levels. So.
How long has this been going on in Temple City?
In Temple City, it's pretty new. I would say we started about a year ago, and other time banks that are going strong and have been going maybe for 2 or 3 years plus is Arroyo Time Bank, Echo Park, Whittier. Those are the big ones, but they're exchanging literally thousands of hours between members per year.
So how does someone find out about how to get involved?
Yeah, go ahead and go over to TempleCityTimeExchange.org. TempleCityTimeExchange.org. I know it's a mouthful, but there you'll find at least some way and other links to get a hold of us. And we have a monthly potluck, and that's how, when you're just exchanging a green dollar, it's very impersonal. You don't have to know or care about anyone. Everyone will take your dollar. you'll take $1, but if you're exchanging hours, it's a very personal exchange. So naturally, the only people I'm going to exchange hours are people that I know and trust, and I feel safe having them in my space, and they feel safe having me in their space. So in a way, to use this currency, as I would call it, an alternative currency, you have to build community. And then it turns out to be so much fun. On those meetings, we laugh so much. It's like an hour and a half of laughing.
Yeah, I went to one. It was really impressive. It felt like hanging out with like your family, your friends, or and you just met them. I just met these people, but I think there's something about that idea that attracts a certain type of person, that is willing to be arms wide open when they just meet you, which is really great.
Has the government given you any static or any trouble yet? Because it would seem to me that, as with bartering, that the government always wants its hand out. They want to take their percentage
I've noticed
of whatever. About 40% of everybody's income in one form or another today goes in taxes, whether it's payroll taxes, sales tax, fuel tax, in some cases literally a tax on type of tax. In the case of your gas pump, they have the fuel tax, and the sales tax is computed including that on top of that. So you got an additional 9.5% or whatever. With this kind of a system, I'm sure that the government is going to come along and say, hey, wait a minute, you've got economic activity here. We want our share of that. What type of things are you coming into in that? Are you having
I guess we're not a big enough threat yet, but that has been addressed, and you as an enrolled agent would be able to articulate these things much better than I. But I know that this is a worldwide phenomenon that's growing like gangbusters. Started over in London, and if you go on to timebanks.org, you will get literally a list, and they're only a partial list, of hundreds and hundreds of these alternative currency that are meant to supplement our lives across the U.S. So I think they've technically, from what I understand, designed it so that it's not a taxable event, because my time is worth the same time as your time. Everyone's time is equal. And so I'm not sure how they're going to tax my hours. Are they going to come and say, for every hour you spend at George's house, you're going to have to spend 15 minutes cleaning the curb? I don't know what they're going to do. How are they going to tax my time? Yeah. I'm sure they'll try, though.
I can tell you, but I'm not going to do it on live air, what I think the approach of the government would be, and it's going to be utterly unfair. But they do have approaches that have done this in the bartering area. Mm-hmm. The answer is that anything that you do for somebody else, the dollar value of that activity is income to you. Whether it is deductible to the other person or not depends upon whether it's a business relationship or a personal relationship.
Right.
But if you have received X number of hours worth of services, you have been paid that amount of money, and they should give you a 1099 barter form for that.
Right. Well, I think
and somebody's going to have to start keeping the record of all of that and issuing it. And when people see this, then they're going to have to argue, well, now do I have to pay self-employment tax on top of this plus income tax?
In case you missed it,
where they could go.
Art is a bit of a tax specialist. Welcome back to the tax show with Art Landing.
Right.
But it is actually brings up an interesting point of, I think a lot of creative things get, people worry about doing them because of things like taxes, I just went to the closing of a Batman art show in Puente, which was really cool. And, one of the first things I thought, unfortunately, is, well, how are they getting around the copyrights and this and that? Because it seems like anything fun, anything good, right? Everybody wants their share, and part of that is the government. And it kills a lot of creativity,
Well, I'm sure you are aware that in many of the Asian countries, they do not have a banking tradition like we have here in the United States. Instead, what they have are cooperatives where everybody puts in, we'll say, $10,000 each into a big pool. Somebody manages the pool, and they bid for the money in that pool. I'll take a loan for 2% of it, 3% of it, whatever. It's such a percent interest. And the man running the pool is then responsible to collect the money from the borrowers, or else the entire community turns on them.
Well, I wonder that the whole Asian countries is a pretty huge swipe of the hand there.
Well, it goes on in Korea, it goes on in China.
Hong Kong?
Hong Kong may or may not
Singapore,
have it because they've got definitely British history there.
Yeah.
But this is the indigenous financial system of these countries. And that is the way it works. When you bring that here to the United States, they start doing it in our culture, and the IRS scratch their heads on this and says, well, what is it? It's not a bank. It's not a partnership. It's a kind of an association for mutual benefit of one another, with monies being paid in an interest. They finally decided to treat it as a partnership. Everybody who's involved in this is putting money in as a partner, and everybody who's paying interest into it is giving them income, which then has to become taxable to the partners. So they will find some way of doing it, even if it has to be shoehorned into the tax system.
It's as fascinating as this is, Art. I think we're going to have to move back to the arts.
That's all right. You asked the question, I've given you the answer.
No, it's true, and I appreciate it. And it does show that everything gets complicated. And that is one side of it, and Art is a specialist in that. But let's move on to our other guest and hear some other things about what's going on with you. Kimberly?
Hi, so I'm Kimberly Cobian. I am a board member of the Nuvein Foundation for Literature and the Arts in the San Gabriel Valley, and the president of the ZZyZx WriterZ, a multi-genre writing group based in Los Angeles. And basically, we are teaming up together to bring, for the second year, Poetryalozza. And Poetryalozza, it means poetry in life, a great celebration of all forms of expression, because in a way, all artistic disciplines are muses of each other. So it's a big, huge celebration of all those things. And
how could somebody get on your website? I know you said ZZyZx or ZZyZx. How is that spelled? What is your website?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. So we do have a Facebook page for Poetryalozza, and for ZZyZx WriterZ, that's ZZyZx, and then WriterZ, spelled with a Z at the end for us. And we do have a website for Poetryalozza, poetryalozza-la.weebly.com.
That's cool. And you brought a postcard with you that has a really cool image. It's basically, Los Angeles, Southern California, with a Google Maps kind of image, and it has a red line going from, it looks like Venice Beach all the way to, what is that?
Claremont.
To Claremont. So you want to tell us a little bit about what that is?
Yeah. This is, it captures the vision of our ambitious journey of poetry, sharing it with every community. We have 12 stops on our second year. We started with 10 stops last year. This year, 12. I think as each year goes on, we're going to add a few stops as we meet so many different people and writing communities. But the origin is in the San Gabriel Valley, the far end in Claremont, California, and we will be bursting through every weekend in August. From Claremont, touching cities such as Monrovia, Whittier, La Puente, Echo Park, North Hollywood, Mid-City.
Yeah, it looks like Whittier's happening August 17th, and what is the other one close to us?
Covina will be August 10th.
That's great, yeah. And before the air, you were telling us about some other poetry events that had happened around our area. There was one in Arcadia, one in South Pasadena. Do you want to tell us a little bit about those?
Yes. Basically, in conjunction with Nuvein, and Chris Trevia and I, and some of the Nuvein and members, and some of the ZZyZx writers.
And for people who don't know, Nuvein is an arts kind of foundation.
Yes, it is a nonprofit organization based in the San Gabriel Valley. I think our hometown is in Monte. And we basically bring literature, culture, and the arts to different communities through events, networking, and fundraising projects.
Yeah, that's great. So you guys had an event recently in Arcadia and one in South Pasadena, right?
Yes. The one in Arcadia was, I believe it was in it was in April for National Poetry Month. We had a teen poetry slam. The kids from the local schools came to the Arcadia Library, and where a few of the poets from the San Gabriel Valley, including myself, we were judges on a panel. We watched them perform different types of poetry, and we gave them gift cards.
How was that night? Tell us about that. Were you impressed by the poets? Was there a big turnout, or how do you feel?
Yeah, I was really really impressed by the participation of the kids in the area, because I've been to zones where kids, they don't know where to start when it comes to poetry. But I'm so happy that Arcadia is so embracing of the arts. We were really impressed by the talented teens who came to showcase.
Something that I think Arcadia does really well, it's also something Rosemead does really well, is the libraries work very well with the clubs, the service clubs in the area. I know Arcadia works really well with Rotary, or strongly Rotary. They had like a musical, Rotary sponsored some kind of musical. Do you know about that art? I think it was like the best musician in Arcadia, and they got to showcase at the...
I'm not familiar with Arcadia operations, but I know that the Rotary Club and the Arcadia Library definitely do things for the community.
Yeah.
The day-to-day programs, I do not have the familiarity that I do with Rosemead.
And Rosemead art is very involved with Kiwanis, and he does a great job tying together, people with the Rosemead Library.
Exactly. Well, Sue Yamamoto, who is the librarian there, is one of our Kiwanians, which does help.
Yeah, and we always say how great she is, but we'll say it again. She's really, really great.
We have... For instance, we have a crochet class that just started there this last week. They'll be meeting again next Tuesday. We have classes in various other things. We have teenage activities. We have art activities. There's even a puppet show coming up on August the 11th, a vegetarian cooking program that's going to be coming up on August the 11th also at 2:30. Then we have, of course, the various tutoring and study things. We have to plan for the LSATs and the various SAT tests that are...
And tying El Monte back into it and Nuvein Foundation back into it, I think the Nuvein Foundation had worked with the El Monte Library, right? And they think they did something with papier-mâché skulls for Day of the Dead. Do you know about that?
Yes. We asked a resident La Puente artist, Art Lopez, to run that workshop with the kids and teens there. It was a lot of fun. Among other things that we're doing with that community, the art walk.
Yeah, that's cool. Dawn, what do you think about this?
I guess one of my first questions is wanting to know how you got into poetry and why you think it's so profoundly important and what it means to you.
Oh, ever since I was a teen. I guess you could say I wrote my first love poem to my English teacher.
Oh.
And then from then on, it's history. I found my voice in college. I was in a writing club in college throughout my college career at Cal State LA. And then a lot of my friends, we built up a beautiful group, the ZZyZx WriterZ. We've only been in conception for about a year and a half. And we wanted to, because all of us are from different neighborhoods in Los Angeles. We have some members from Whittier, Cobian, and others from LA, Burbank, Monrovia, East LA. So we wanted to bring something to everyone where not only do all the artists get to network, but they see the relationships between all those different disciplines. And we thought Poetrypalooza would be a celebration of all of those different artistic disciplines, from live music to poetry. We're also going to teach workshops at each venue to either the up-and-coming poet, the first-time poet, or a poet who wants to learn a new style. We're going to have all those great things.
What are some styles of poetry?
I'm sorry?
What are some styles of poetry?
Well, one of them, let's see, off the top of my head, we will have a haiku workshop at our kickoff in Lincoln Heights on August 3rd. And that'll be led by Debbie Kaloji, who is a household name in haiku in Southern California. She's from the San Gabriel Valley. We'll have another workshop, a chain poem by former Mount Sac professor Rick Step Bowling at our Covina location.
What's a chain poem?
The way Rick describes it is that I think he gives everyone one theme, and everyone writes a few lines on that theme, and then they make it a chain. So everybody puts it together and to make one poem. To name a few.
That's really cool. I think writing is something that a lot of times, maybe especially younger people, associate with school, and maybe it's work. But I think like you were talking about, once you kind of find this love of writing, it can really be freeing. It can be therapeutic. And, just writing for the newspaper even sometimes, I find that it's just really therapeutic, and it's nice to have something like a group like yours, where you kind of hold yourself accountable to write something every week, and you say, all right, I have to actually do it, sit down and make some time for myself. Something that's nice that ties into a San Gabriel Valley event is just recently there was a dance crew contest, the best dance crew in San Gabriel Valley. I don't know if you heard about this, but it took place in Monterey Park, but it included people from San Gabriel, Temple City, West Covina. But what was nice about it is it wasn't just kind of an artistic expression, but they tied it to a need, and that was for a minority bone marrow registry. Because there was a woman, a young woman, UCLA graduate, who actually volunteered at an organization that focused in the San Gabriel Valley, who needed a bone marrow transplant. And she's Asian American, and Asians, Latinos, almost all minorities are a very small percentage of the National Bone Marrow Registry. So they had this dance competition, and then they also let people register to be bone marrow donors. And it turns out they found a match, a 9/10 match. So it's really kind of a wonderful thing. Something you might want to think about is, including groups like, I think it's called 3MA. There's a lot of different groups out there that do things like that. Will partner with your artistic event to bring in especially minority groups where, a cotton swab that takes a few minutes, it could save someone's life.
Oh, that's really impressive. Yeah. I mean, one thing's for sure, we are bringing more promotion for the San Gabriel Valley, because some people, they don't think of the arts or a lot of culture happening out there, but there's tons of it, and our tour is going to include 5 stops in that zone, including, of course, Greater Los Angeles, and ending in our finale at the last bookstore in downtown LA, where everybody can come together. But yeah, I mean, speaking that you mentioned dance groups, we are going to feature some live performances by local dance groups, theaters, and local musicians. So, I mean, it's going to be quite a party each night.
Nice, that's great. Lucia, what are you thinking?
I think it's really good that you guys do that, because, I mean, you're catering to these young people, that they have this in them. And a lot of times, it happens with minority parents. They don't encourage they don't encourage young people to, delve more into their artistic, artistic expression. And I think this is a really good thing, because I was looking on here that you guys are going to be at the art walk in La Puente. And,
yes, we are.
Yeah, and we had Chris a few weeks ago talking about it. And I never even knew that La Puente had these things, you know what I mean? And I live in Baldwin Park. It's just right next door, And so it's really good that you guys are doing this, because it's like we were talking before, it's building community, it's bringing everyone together for the love of art and love of artistic expression and just different things, It's just bringing the community together. And I think it's a really good thing that you guys are doing things like this.
Great. Yeah, thanks. I mean, and to add upon the UTMA La Puente Art Walk, we're going to take over a whole gallery. We're going to have different La Puente artists displaying their work, and we're going to have a poetry stage, and we're going to have live art happening as the poets are performing on the stage, and it's going to be something really wild.
Yeah, cool.
I can't wait.
What is the date for that again?
For the La Puente Art Walk and Poetryalozza stop there, it will be August 18th.
That's cool. All right, guys, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back in a minute. For information on where to pick up your copy of Mid-Valley News, call 626-443-1753. That's 626-443-1753. Welcome back to Around the Valley. Today is July 24th. We have some great guests. Let everyone introduce themselves again, and let you guys know how to get in contact with them.
Hi, I'm Lucia Flores, and I am a Baldwin Park resident, and I am also host of Rock and Rolas here on Mid-Valley Radio.
Art Landing, Rosemead Kiwanis, rosemeadkiwanis.org.
Orgy.
Not O-R-G, it's U-R-L. Means organization, not an orgy.
Wow, I got to join the Kiwanis. It's gotten a lot funner. Don Rickabaugh, I'm here representing the Temple City Time Exchange.
Kimberly Cobian, I'm here representing ZZyZx WriterZ, the Nuvein Foundation for Literature and the Arts, and Poetryalozza.
Let's talk about a few local things that are happening again. I just wrote an article last night that dealt with El Monte and fireworks. It's going to come out in the Mid-Valley News tomorrow. El Monte is a city where fireworks are legal. safe and sane fireworks, as they're called, which means they don't go up in the air and they don't really explode. What do you guys think about that? El Monte's trying to ban fireworks. The two sides of the coin are nonprofits and local school groups and whatever use these firework booths to raise money. And the other side is, it costs a lot of money for police in terms of having more police and having to return more phone calls. I think there was like 147 supposedly phone calls about illegal fireworks. Every year we see the illegal fireworks.
Well, the illegal fireworks are going to continue to be a problem because they are illegal, and outlawing the safe and sane ones is not going to help. In Rosemead, we do have fireworks that are legally sold. We also have one of the 2 fireworks shows that is put on by the city, which people can attend and be a part of. And we have not had a major problem with it, and I haven't really heard about it being a law enforcement problem there. And possibly it is because the show that we put on is better than what people can do with their illegal ones. I don't know.
I know that. I mean, that Rosemead show has a lot of fame and it's really popular. So I think you are right. A lot of people just would rather see that than spend money to buy a box of little dinky fireworks. That's not going to be that great.
Well, the little dinky ones we don't worry about. It's the illegal ones that everybody worries about because these things can create fires. They go up, they land on people's roofs, whatever. But that is not going to be stopped by eliminating the little sparklers.
Well, what I think the city of El Monte is saying, and of course that's a kind of big moniker for the city council, is that when the police respond to illegal fireworks and they show up and everyone has legal fireworks, it's hard to tell where the illegal ones came from. But if those safe and sane fireworks were illegal, it would be easier to find who is shooting the illegal fireworks. Who knows if it's going to happen or not. But, something interesting that happened to me while researching for this article is the mayor of El Monte, his name is Andre Quintero, and that's with a Q, and he has a Facebook page. And, a lot of times it's very, very hard to get people to email you back, no matter who, but especially city people. And, I wrote him on Facebook, and he wrote back literally within 10 seconds. It was amazing. And I thought, wow, this is a story in itself, ways to communicate with city officials. Temple City, we have Don from the Temple City Time Exchange. Temple City mayor who just stepped down, Tom Chavez, was actually really accessible as well. He did office hours, a few times a week.
That was amazing.
Did you ever do that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I'm like, are you kidding me? In 2 days, I got an appointment to have a half hour of your time. That was great.
Isn't that great? I did the same thing. And I don't even live in Temple City. I just thought, I'd like to talk to this guy. And I even told him, I don't live in Temple City. I just kind of want to chat. And they said, come on in. Yeah, anyway, so that's kind of it. Did you have any opinion on that, Lucia?
It's a big debate. I mean, I understand it would be safer though, because I've actually seen accidents like with fireworks where the kids were like holding it too long and it explodes in their hand. Like I've seen that, eyewitness to that, and it's kind of like in Baldwin Park they have the fireworks show at Sierra Vista High School, and so that's a good thing. It just depends. I think on usually I would think. If the parents are, watching and paying more attention to what the kids are doing, that's okay. I feel like that would be a more safer, environment. But yeah, there's always going to be problems, like Art said, with the illegal fireworks and things like that.
Yeah, it's funny, because researching online, I read these kind of, people can respond online to articles nowadays, and it's funny to read what people say because it's completely unfiltered. Mm-hmm. And one of them was saying that, sparklers are illegal now, right? And they weren't when we were growing up, and because they can reach, 1,000 degrees or whatever it can, so they're somewhat dangerous. But somebody right underneath that wrote, yeah, but still kind of a match. Matches can burn people. They should make matches illegal.
I think if I was channeling my dog, they would vote for, please, no more of those loud noises.
That really is the truth, isn't it?
I always feel bad for pets because they just, every 4th of July,
they freak out.
They poor thing.
Kimberly, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I do feel for the pets, that too. My dogs freak out. But no, I mean, I completely agree that this is something that it's probably going to be debated for a while, but it is going to take some of the fundraising from some of the local nonprofits and schools.
Yeah. It's tough because I was looking at the list, and again, you can see that on midvalleynews.com. The article comes out tomorrow. But of the cities that have fireworks sales and the ones that don't, and it's not always true because Temple City is a fairly wealthy city that allows fireworks. But for the most part, it seemed like the more wealthy cities are the ones that don't allow it. you know, and so it was kind of interesting to see that. Something I included in the article is different ways organizations could raise money that maybe they don't know about. For example, Longo Toyota does a thing where any community group can come in and wash cars for an afternoon, and they'll pay $500.
That's nice.
Yeah, and Rosemead did something a while back that was kind of like a community yard sale. So instead of everyone having their rinky-dink yard sale, they get a space for everyone to share, and it brought in tons of people. And I know a lot of local groups made a lot of money that day. And, you know, and on top of that, advertising for the local museums and whatever. So there are different things, but yeah, it definitely gets tricky because more and more people are getting dependent on things like that because, you know, people have less money to give, parents have less money to give, and so a lot of those kind of...
I mean, that's where the time exchange whole concept comes in, too. It's like, let's not be so dependent on the exchange of greenbacks. You know, let's find other ways to give and receive value, and different nonprofit groups can earn hours for things that then they can exchange or give to somebody else. And so that whole conversation is a way to get away from just the need for the currency that we usually think of.
Yeah, and as soon as you kind of let your mind go anywhere, it's interesting because I was thinking you could even get the ZZyZx writers to have a workshop, you know, for your community, and that could be...
And they're going to earn hours.
And they can earn hours, exactly.
And then what do they need? Do they need help organizing a venue? Do they need help something?
We would need an actual venue, perhaps.
Okay. Then whoever provides the venue is going to get hours for providing the venue.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all sorts of things that you can start thinking outside the box. And, you know, to me, there's a lot of things you can worry about, but I think the solutions are going to come from grassroots people, us joining hands, locking arms, and say, we're going to create value and richness within our own communities. And we'll worry about Uncle Sam later. If he wants to come with a bazooka sometime, okay. But we're going to be so strong together as a community that I just think we're going to create a much more beautiful place to live.
And one thing that you need to be thinking about, I know that I am because I watch world affairs and whatever, if the United States loses its status as a reserve currency, which is very, very likely the way things are going, and we wind up with high inflation rates, high unemployment, all the various problems that people are looking at. That's what's happened to other countries that have lost their reserve currency status in prior times. We are going to be going to a non-cash barter type, time exchange type economy just for survival. It's going to be the communities and the people in the communities helping one another, volunteerism and whatever, that is going to become the new medium of exchange because the state doesn't have the money to bail us out. The federal government doesn't have the money to bail us out. And I guarantee you the United Nations does not have the ability to bail us out either.
Well, I don't think it's the United Nations' job to bail us out.
Well, that's the next step up, but it ain't going to happen.
It is and it isn't. It's kind of a different entity. But that's a whole other discussion for another day. It sounds like Waterworld or something, you know.
Well, I think it's relevant because we're used to being like on a Disneyland ride where we just think everyone's supposed to take care of us and hand it to us. And now it's about us taking our own power and creating solutions for ourselves. And right now, what seems like a sort of hipster thing to do is these neighborhood garden exchanges or sharing backyard produce. That's like kind of cool to do. But like at some point, I think you're right, Art, it's going to be some people won't eat unless people are sharing the produce actually just from their own backyards.
Well, I do know there are movements, grow food, not grass, that type of thing. Water is a huge issue, and grass takes a lot of water versus other things.
Did you know that we sheet mulched our front yard? Our front yard is now a raised garden bed.
Very cool. Very cool.
We've got 5 fruit trees and lots of vegetables growing.
Yeah, and speaking of, people who live in the San Gabriel Valley, they should visit the South El Monte farm that is it's behind the Ramada Inn, kind of close to Santa Anita in the 60. There's 4 acres, and they grow a lot of different fruit, or a lot of different vegetables.
That's a community garden?
It's it's a community garden. Actually, there's a community garden in the front, and this is a organic farm in the back. And it's for profit, but it's for the community, really. It's kind of sponsored by Gloria Molina, who's a supervisor. And
that's great.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. And, they don't use any pesticides. And it's open, I think, Saturday 10 to 2. They have like 400 tomato plants, and it's kind of in phase 1 of what they're trying to do. But there's an article on Mid-Valley News. You can search Mid-Valley News, El Monte Community Garden, or Organic Garden. It can pop up. We'll post it on Facebook.
People have forgotten that the San Gabriel Valley is very, very rich agriculturally. We had the first vineyards in California right off of San Gabriel associated with the mission. Before Claremont, before Mendocino, we had vineyards in San Gabriel.
Right, I know.
We had cornfields in Arcadia. I remember the old Carl's corn stand when I was a little boy. We had citrus orchards galore all along the base of the foothills.
It's still...
We had sheep in Pasadena, where Hastings Ranch is now. The reason it's called Hastings Ranch, there were sheep there in my lifetime that I used to put my hands inside the wool of.
Nice. Is that why you're missing a finger, Art?
Yeah.
That is a story. However, we did have dairy herds in El Monte, the old art farm. You had driftwood, whatever.
Going back to what we were saying before, the historical museum, they have a lot of great pictures of kind of the transition from agricultural San Gabriel Valley to suburbia San Gabriel Valley. And downtown LA right now has an exhibit of old maps of Los Angeles, and a big part of that is the San Gabriel Valley.
And you also had a San Antonio winery in downtown LA that's still functioning.
Yeah, it's amazing to see when the progression of the maps from the Mission, right, which was almost all of San Gabriel Valley, to the ranches, to the smaller ranches, to the cities, and
But now we're kind of going backwards in time, and I've been inspired. I can't remember the name of them, but there's a family in Pasadena that on their 8,000 or 9,000 square foot lot, not a huge lot, decent lot, they're not only making a lot of their own food, but they have enough to sell to local vendors and restaurants that they're making anywhere from $30,000 to $70,000 a year.
Wow.
So I'm just saying that's somewhere in Pasadena.
Oh, cool.
There's a family. I'm sure you could Google it.
Yeah.
It's just showing how much of a resource we have. We actually don't have to go very far, and as gas gets more expensive, wouldn't you like to be able to walk? That's probably it. Yeah, walk down to get your tomatoes, for instance, rather than have to, drive, 2 hours or have it flown in from Chile or something.
And one of the things people sometimes don't think about or realize is when food has to travel, it has to be modified in a way so it can be safe to travel or live, have a longer shelf life. And, there's been lots of articles about just the tomato, how the tomato over the years has just lost its taste, almost completely. A tomato is a perfect example when you eat one from an organic farm, say in South El Monte, versus one at, name your grocery store, they're going to taste completely different, completely different. And so, go to that South El Monte farm, go to the Temple City Farmers Market or the Alhambra Farmers Market, and just give it a go, because a lot of times people think it's more expensive and it's not,
No, if you're buying stuff in season, really, if you cost average it over the year, it is cheaper and healthier.
Right, or grow in your own backyard. Stick some, I met an ecologist who she basically tested the soil before she bought a house. She said she was driving her realtor nuts because she was testing the soil everywhere. But it's like we mentioned earlier, historically, we have some of the best soil that there is. So just throw some stuff in there. Watch it grow. It's amazing. Were you going to say something, Lucia?
Oh, no, I was just saying that it's true, because almost everyone has a lemon tree or orange tree or something in their backyard.
We have tons of citrus trees in my front and backyard.
And sometimes it actually doesn't work well, because just recently we had a woman from the Vector Control, Kate Middleton from Vector Control, and they're talking about how, Asian tiger mosquito, and there was a different epidemic, but a citrus kind of epidemic, and sometimes it get a bit much. But yeah, it's wonderful to just pick something from your own backyard and eat it. All right, guys. Well, let's just go around and sign off and throw in anything you want to throw. It's been a great show today. Very interesting. You guys want to start off this way?
It's a quick announcement. So Poetryalozza Tour 2012 kicks off August 3rd at the Cafe in the Heights in Lincoln Heights at 6 p.m. And we'll be hopping every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in August throughout San Gabriel Valley and Los Angeles. And our ending our tour August 26th at the Last Bookstore in downtown Los Angeles. We'll have poetry, open mic, music, workshops, live performances, visual art, and much more. And once again, like us on Facebook, Poetrypalooza. And we have a website, poetrypalooza-la.weebly.com.
Awesome. Well, I don't want you to like us. I want you to love us, and we want to get to know you. So why don't you come to one of our monthly potlucks? The Time Exchange potluck is on the third Thursday of every month. Right now it's rotating between our homes, and we would just love to get to know you and help create a currency among ourselves that actually is just plain a lot of fun, even if it's not even valuable financially. But come and join us. And TempleCityTimeExchange.org.
Art.
The event series at the Rosemead Public Library for July is up on the RosemeadKiwanis.org website now. The one for August will be up as of this weekend. And as I said earlier, we have everything there for puppet shows for the kids, magic shows, art activities, various educational projects like crocheting. If you want to be participatory in any of these things, or if you even want to start your own program, it is something that the librarian there is very cooperative in helping you get going. We're hoping to also have some poetry there. We're talking with Chris about that.
Okay, and Baldwin Park continues to have concerts in the park at Morgan Park. I'm sure you all can check out on the different city websites. Baldwin Parks is www.baldwinpark.com. This Thursday they're having a concert. And there will also be food trucks. Also, if you're interested in adult education, the El Monte Rosemead Adult School will have their new schedule out sometime in August. So you can check out that website, www.emras.edu.
Great. Well, I just want to encourage everyone to check out midvalleynews.com. We just put up a PDF of the paper. We're going to try to do that regularly now. And page 2 of our newspaper has a local events board. And there's a lot of interesting things happening in the San Gabriel Valley. A lot of summer concerts that are free, a lot of library activities that are free, and, just fascinating stuff out there. So stay tuned, check us out, pick up a paper, see us online, and thanks for joining us at Around the Valley. Thank you guys for doing such inspiring work, and we will see you soon.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.